is the 5th discovery of Uncommon Gay Spiritual Warrior. Today we're dealing with stress, anxiety, and problems that you don't seem to be able to overcome in life. First of all, let me explain that anxiety and stress are basically what I would consider your story. It's simply something that's going on in your life that's causing a barrier between you and your spiritual center and your truth. I had a client fairly recently who came in and discussed that his life was very, very stressful because his boss at work had told him that he had to reach a certain deadline with his amount of income that he was bringing in as far as clients go. And he felt that it was an unreasonable request. And however, though, he was given an ultimatum: you either do this or you get fired. So he began to embrace this story, perhaps his boss's story, and stress heaped upon him. And every time I would talk to him, it would sound more and more as if he was embracing his story instead of his truth. So what I want to do is I want to share with you some interesting facts about my own life. This past couple weeks, I have been involved in making a large move in my life from Nashville, where I've been living for 25 years, to South Florida. In the process, I have had to sell my house, find a new place in Florida, move my mother and my dog down to my sister's in Florida, and where I'm going to be moving to be with family, 3 sisters, 2 brother-in-laws, and 3 nieces and nephews. And I'm also moving my job, opening up a new business, and closing a chapter in my life that has been very beautiful. What happened in the process was right at the beginning, I met a guy who lived in Florida, and I met him online. And we started talking and FaceTiming, and suddenly my heart was more in the future than it was in the present. And one day he told me that someone had asked him out, and I was kind of under the impression that we were almost dating online because we were talking so much and we were getting so close. And it kind of brought my heart to a stop. And I'm sure most of you have gone through something similar to this. It's kind of a 2-dimensional relationship online, and you don't realize you're actually involving your heart until something brings you back to reality. Well, this brought me back to reality, and as I realized that we needed to stop talking face-to-face and maybe just texting for a while so that my heart could understand what my mind was actually feeling. So when this happened, what happened was an influx or a huge surge of emotion began to come up, and it happened as a result of having to teach my final yoga class at the YMCA, which I'd been teaching for 25 years. And on the way home in my car, I just burst into tears, and I couldn't really stop crying for about 3 or 4 days. My story had become releasing the past. My story had become, I can't sell my house, I'm unable to sell my house and move on to my future. And I let the story basically not be conscious in my mind, because I was so more involved with the future of what I thought I was going to go to. And I was excited about it. But when this pretend, as it were, future went away, what happened was real emotion was there that I needed to deal with. So I felt the grief, I allowed the grief to come up, and I let the story appear in my mind. But instead of stopping there, instead of believing what that story was, because I think that your mind and life situations bring you into a situation or a story, as it were, and it really doesn't mean that that is your truth. So your truth and your story can be two different things. So what I would do was I would feel my story, and then I would go into meditation, and I would try to become the observer of the story and discover what it is that Spirit was trying to teach me as a result of what I was going through. And one day, about a week and a half into this grief, I had an epiphany that the reason why the house wasn't selling was in divine order, that I needed to put periods and commas and question marks and exclamation points on places in my life that were happening right now, and I was avoiding doing that because of grief. And also that the people who I was going to in Florida needed to deal with their own issues before I moved. So when I resolved that in my heart and I acquiesced to God's and Spirit's relationship and path for me in this moment, everything changed. I began to look at life in a completely different way. I realized that my disbelief was more an atheistic view of life, that I didn't really truly believe in the concept that all things were working together for my good, and that God was not the author of my fear, and that my story simply was my fear in that moment. So I hope that that helps you get closer to overcoming any anxiety that's in your life, and I hope you'll join me for the next discovery. Have a good day.